Welcome to Curati On Air. Today's special guest is Greg Cooper. Hello and welcome, everybody. It is a pleasure to have you here for Curati On Air. I'm your host, Cheryl Tan, and I'm pleased to introduce you today to our guests, Greg Cooper, an internationally recognized LinkedIn expert based in the UK, and of course, Andy Kapeloff, the COO of Curati. Great to talk with you both today, guys.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Cheryl. Thanks for inviting me.
Today, we're talking all about LinkedIn, of course. And Greg, you had a really great article about LinkedIn and some of the things that folks are doing wrong and things they could be doing better to get some business out of LinkedIn. Let's start with you, though, and get a little bit of your background and how you got into focusing on LinkedIn exclusively.
Okay. Well, for 20 years, I ran a technology marketing company working for large tech companies like SAP, IBM, Microsoft, etc. And in 2006, we discovered this new platform, or relatively new platform, called LinkedIn, which actually we immediately recognized the potential of it, and it became very much part of the process that we used in our work for those companies in identifying potential opportunities for them.
This was even before it got this huge push just a few years ago. So you were using it way in the early stages. How were you able to get business from LinkedIn when it had so many fewer people on the platform?
Yeah, well, I think many of the early members on LinkedIn were from the technology industry, and they were very senior people. And as it happened, that was our target audience. So, we were able to use that to identify people who wanted to talk to and to network with people within those organizations we were targeting.
Andy and I were talking before this call about LinkedIn, how it's one of those things that when you talk with other people, they'll say, yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, but I wish I knew how to use it better. And I imagine you hear that a lot too, Greg. But Andy, what is your experience with LinkedIn? And I imagine it's quite like my own.
Well, actually, it's somewhere in between, because I've also been on LinkedIn for a number of years. I can't pinpoint it the way Greg can to exactly when, but a number of years, certainly predating most of the people who will be watching this whenever we air. And for me, it was because I was in technology. I was in IT as a programmer, then a business analyst. And so I was using it as, to network, recruiters, people in my field. It was all about jobs. That's really mainly what I feel that it was about in my experience. And this is going to be particularly informative to me, this particular conversation, because I have to admit that I've been kind of remiss about transferring over my usage of LinkedIn from IT to the social media people who I'm now more involved with. So, I'm looking forward to this greatly.
Yeah, me too. Very much so. So, Greg, let's put you on the spot and talk about some of the things that people are not doing correctly, how they're not maximizing LinkedIn, even though they probably do have an account at this point.
Okay. Well, I think the first and most obvious thing is that LinkedIn has become the first port of call for potential customers and candidates, even for employment, when they're checking out a new company, a new individual in that company. So it's really important that people have a compelling and credible profile. And there are far too many people out there who've just got a partially completed profile, or there's a picture of themselves with a pet. I read lots and lots of profiles where I read them and I think, well, actually, do you know what? I really don't understand what this company does or what this person's role is within the company. So I think that's one of the first things, actually.
That's actually really critical. In your article on Curati.com, where you talked about LinkedIn, you mentioned that people are selling to the wrong people. So companies or people who have LinkedIn profiles are selling to the wrong people, and that's one of the big problems. And that might kind of lead to what you're saying as the issue in the profile is people maybe don't even know who their clients and customers are. So maybe they're not clear themselves on who they're marketing to. So can you talk about how you help them maybe dial in on that, how they figure that out, how to make it clearer who they serve and what it is they do?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is, it's really so important in business to be very, very clear who your target audience is. And on LinkedIn, those are the people that you should be addressing. So when you write a summary and when you think about what skills you're going to display, what extra information that you're going to put on your profile, you've always got to be thinking of your ideal customer, because those are the people that you're actually trying to attract and engage with. So I think that's really important. The second thing really is about building your network, and most people have too small a network, and often it's not a relevant network, because one of the things with LinkedIn, as you'll know, is that we get lots of invitations once you've got established on LinkedIn, and it's very easy to let other people set the agenda. In other words, your network starts to become shaped by the people who are sending you invitations rather than the people who are your target audience. And that's why it's so important to go back to this thing about who your target audience is and be really clear in that first place.
Ooh, that's a really, really good point. So like right now I've got 20 or 25 invitations to connect sitting in LinkedIn that I haven't accepted yet. I don't know them in particular, and they haven't really sent me a message to say, I know you through this, or I think we should connect for this reason. But from what it sounds like, you're telling me that I should actually drive the train on that. I should be making connections with people who make sense for me versus me sitting and waiting to respond. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you're diluting your, one of the things with LinkedIn is we want to, these days, sales has changed. It's a different model of sales now. We're trying to attract customers to us rather than constantly pitching at people. So if we're going to do that, LinkedIn gives us the ability to expose our content to that audience. And if our audience is not relevant because we've connected with too many people that are not quite our target audience, then we're not exposing our content to the right people.
Ooh, that's really, really good. Because if you make the point to connect with someone who could be a potential client or partner, well, if they accept, they'll see the things that you're posting. So that makes a lot more sense.
Exactly. I think also in the UK, particularly, probably more so than the US, many people have too small a network. Mm-hmm. Over here, I would say probably the average network is about between 200 and 300 connections. And, that's just simply not enough to develop that momentum. I mean, in my view, you need at least between 1,000 and 5,000 connections in order to start building some presence in your particular marketplace. I know in the States, people tend to have more connections. I've got many friends in the US who've got 20, 25, 30,000 connections.
But is that even, like, on the other side of that, is that a bad thing to have too many? Especially if they're on the wrong, right? If it's the wrong target. It's a
balance. As long as you're connecting to people who are relevant, then it's fine.
Okay. Let's talk more about the profile, because you say that sometimes they're not as filled out as they could be. What are some things that you suggest people look at? And you talked about it a little bit, but how do they know that it's not filled out properly? They may think, oh, my name's there, my title's there, I'm good. But what are some things that really need to be fleshed out to be successful?
Yeah, okay. Well, LinkedIn gives us a little bit of a tip here, because everybody's profile is scored by LinkedIn. There are 6 levels, goes from beginner up to all-star. So the first thing is, have you got an all-star profile? And the all-star profile is actually just how complete your profile is. It doesn't necessarily mean what you're putting there is good. It just means LinkedIn's noticed that you filled all the fields in. So that's the first thing to get for an all-star profile. And then it's really, your profile needs to be, as I said earlier, talking to the people who are reading it. It needs to engage them. It needs to make them want to take an action, to get in touch with you. It needs to impress them that you're really a good, credible individual, good person to do business with.
You had mentioned in your article on LinkedIn about low levels of activity. So maybe you take a course or you read your LinkedIn article and then you're pretty good for like a week. And then the holidays happen, the new year happens, and you're like, the next time you're on LinkedIn is in mid 2017. And I think for some people, they'll raise their hand and go, oh, that's me. What are your suggestions for posting on LinkedIn, for maximum use, and what do you post? What are the things that you should be putting in your LinkedIn profile? Well, okay. In your feed.
Yeah. Okay. LinkedIn's not like Twitter, where Twitter you can do 20, 25 tweets a day, and that's pretty normal. LinkedIn, if you're doing between 1 and 5 posts a day, that's okay. That's going to keep you in front of your audience. The sort of things to post about, well, first and foremost, it's things that's going to be of interest to your target audience. So today I had a question from one of my clients that does patient handling systems for nursing homes, and he put together an update, and actually it wasn't very interesting. So I suggested to him that why not actually share some examples of good practice, to find some really outstanding nursing homes and share information about them to inspire people. So that's one of the things that works really well and gets traction. Inspirational posts, examples of good practice, topical posts, although not necessarily political posts. I know that's very topical on both sides of the Atlantic at the moment, but we'll get into hot water there. Topical posts, generally things that are going to grab your audience's attention. What are the problems that your target audience is dealing with? What information, what news would they like to be reading? And those are the sort of things to post as updates.
So, for example, Andy was talking about being remiss about using LinkedIn as much now as he did in the past. Could he then simply put out his Curati posts on LinkedIn and be done with it? Or should there be more to engage the people on his profile? Is there more that he could be doing other than sharing the timely posts that are already on Curati.com?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, there are some great posts on Curati, and those would definitely be good content for LinkedIn and for Andy's target audience. But it'd be difficult to generate enough of those to provide the content for regular activity. So what Andy would need to be doing would be to sharing content from other people who he's noticed in his feed that he likes and he thinks will be relevant to his audience. Because that's all giving the message to the audience that this is a person who's knowledgeable about the sector, sharing interesting, useful stuff, and that will resonate with them.
The other thing I think is interesting, too, is the engagement, because as you mentioned in your article, it's all about building relationships. And that's probably 1 post, 2 posts, even 3 posts aren't going to say to somebody in your target market, let's do business. But it's more of the engagement that you maybe place, Andy, or you, Greg, on somebody else's post, and then there's a conversation back and forth. Well, what's your ratio, or is it more organic than that? Is it like I post on Monday and I spend 10 minutes responding to comments? I mean, like, what is that posting and engagement ratio, if you have one, or how do you divvy up your time in a day, a busy day?
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts to that. One is being consistent. Right. So, rather than doing 1 post one day and then 10 posts the next day, try and be consistent with the number of posts you're doing. In terms of the ratio, probably maybe 1 post is original content or a promotion of some sort, and then sort of 4 or 5 posts are actually interacting with other people's posts or sharing those posts. So kind of like about probably a 1-to-5 ratio.
Okay, that sounds good. And it sounds like it's doable, as in it's not all day that you're spending on this one particular social media platform.
Well, LinkedIn have got a fantastic mobile app that they've really put some work into. So, we're all now able to just access the mobile app, quickly check our news feed, interact with any relevant content there, and keep in touch with what's going on. So, I wrote a post a little while ago, LinkedIn on 15 minutes a day. And really, unless you're a dedicated salesperson, then most people can really keep in touch on 10, 15 minutes a day.
Greg, what kinds of results have you seen with people you've worked with who before were like, LinkedIn does not work for me? And then you've been able to get to them and show them that some of these methods really do work. What are some of the results that they've gotten and that you can share with us?
Sure, yeah. Well, actually, I sat next to a guy at lunch today who came on one of my trainings, and he was just reminding me that 3 months after he came on the training, they got £100,000 order. What's that, about $150,000?
A lot of money.
It's a lot of money. A lot of money. And that was directly from the work they'd done on their LinkedIn profile.
Wow.
Another one of my clients, I trained a team of 10 salespeople back in February. And at the time, they were fairly new to LinkedIn. They had 1,000 connections in total between them. And today they have 30,000 connections.
Wow.
Their presence in the marketplace is massively increased. They get, the MD told me, they get the chief executive, because he measures all this very carefully, 5.6 inquiries or leads, 5.6 leads every week now from LinkedIn, and they've done tens of thousands of pounds worth of business as a result of that.
That's incredible. Well, the one thing you wrote about I thought was so interesting is the team concept, where if you are a member of a sales team, or maybe even the management team of a company, you could sort of pool your resources together. I've never actually heard that before, and I think that's ingenious. How does that work, and how could that work for a small business?
Sure, yeah. Well, that's one of the things that's worked really well with this company I was just telling you about, because there's a team of 10, and one of them will share some content, and then other members of the team will share that content. So they're constantly amplifying it, because everybody's network is a bit different. So, and it really, they really actively support each other. That works really well. Of course, if you're a 1 or 2 person business, you don't have that sort of in-house team, but you can create it by developing relationships with people, and like an informal support or fan base, people whose content you like and will share, and who like your content and will share yours. So you can develop kind of virtual team if you're a really small business and achieve the same impact.
I feel like we could talk a really long time. I just have one more before I may let you go, Greg. I'm not sure. I may let you go. Is the whole concept of targeting. So let's say you do have a person in mind, or the type of person in your mind that you work with, whether it's female business owners or plant directors or whatever it is, mechanics, whatever the demographic and type of work that person is in. How exactly do you get those people in your target list? Or how do you get them? How do you find them? And how do you use LinkedIn to your advantage to get to those specific people?
Okay. Well, there's 2 answers to that, Cheryl. One is that one, it works today, and one is what will happen in a month's time, because LinkedIn is actually changing some of it's changing its version actually. And at the moment, you could do that by using the advanced search feature, and there are 26 different filters there. So you can search by people's titles, and you can search by variations of title. So say someone was, a vice president, someone else was put their title as VP. So that's the same position, but just the format is different.
Sure.
You can search for multiple formats on LinkedIn for the same person. You can search by the zip code, the postcode. You can search by the location. You can search by the industry. You can search by the size of company. It's a huge amount of filters you can use to really hone in on the particular individuals that you're targeting. And then you can save the list. save that as a target list. You can't export it, but you can save it. So LinkedIn is bringing out a new update. And in the new update, it looks like some of those advanced search features are now going to be available in the premium products rather than the free product.
Oh, ding, ding,
we
ding.
don't know for sure. We don't know for sure because it's imminent. The rollout is imminent.
Gotcha.
So we're just going to have to wait and see. But it might be that in future people will have to pay for some of those features.
So currently, start doing your searching now because it is in the free LinkedIn. What are your thoughts on the premium versions? Now, this is before the change that you were talking about, but in your opinion, is it worth it for someone who's dabbling in LinkedIn to pay for those premium features?
Yeah. Well, my advice generally so far has been, if you're in sales or business development, you should pay for a premium account. That's, quite clear. If business development is part of your role, right, but you're not dedicated, then I would say use the free account until you start banging your head on the ceiling. And when you come up against the restrictions, then it's time to upgrade.
Right. And then with these new features that you're talking about, where they're switching to the premium potentially, maybe people will make that jump faster.
I think so, yeah. And what LinkedIn's trying to do particularly is try to capture all the people who are in sales and recruitment and make sure they're all paying for the privilege of using LinkedIn.
Absolutely. All right, Andy. So what are you going to do now that you've heard all of these things that LinkedIn can do and the things that we should be doing? What are you doing?
Okay, I've been put on the spot here.
I know. Because my head is spinning about things that I need to get done.
Well, certainly this was as informative as I suspected it would be from Jan and my previous conversation with him and from seeing his articles. It's okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to spend that 10 or 15 minutes a day that I haven't been doing. I've been very patchy. So if I write an article, I put it out there on Pulse. It's not good enough. And I know it. Plus, I have a little retargeting to do because even though I am nicely into the range that Greg talked about in terms of the number of people in my network, a lot of those are historical people. So unless I'm writing something specific about IT or compliance or something to do with the financial sector, I'm really not going to get as much buy-in as would be ideal. So I also have to try and refocus. These are things that I've known, but sometimes you just need someone to tell you this and just re-energize you and refocus you. So yeah, it's been very good and very helpful. Thanks, Greg.
Greg, you're a good kick in the butt. Thank you very, very much. We're going to get moving. Any last words you'd like to share with our audience on how to find success with LinkedIn and how to actually get business from it?
Yeah, I would say the trick is activity leads to visibility, which leads to opportunity. So get active on LinkedIn.
And on that note, we're going to say thank you. Thank you, Greg Cooper, Andy Kapoloff. We thank you for joining us for Curati on Air, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
We hope you found today's Curati on Air interview informative and entertaining. Look for new articles and video conversations with influencers and emerging leaders at Curati.com. Thanks for joining us.